At the Baikonur Cosmodrome, officials of the Russian Space Forces report that all ground systems are ready for the launch of the Proton rocket just 9 minutes and 50 seconds from now. Moments from now, commands will be sent to switch power from ground sources to the Zarya's onboard batteries for liftoff and the module's ascent to orbit. At Baikonur, the temperatures are again chilly, temperatures about 35 degrees, a brisk wind, as International Space Station Program Manager Randy Brinkley, Gretchen McLean, the Deputy Associate Administrator for Space Station from NASA headquarters, joins other heads of agency, including NASA Administrator Daniel Golden, Russian Space Agency General Director Yuri Kopchev, and the other international partner heads of agency for this launch this morning. As you heard a few minutes ago, once the Proton's third stage delivers the Zarya to orbit and the module is separated from the Proton, Russian flight controllers here will begin a complex series of commanding to Zarya, preparing it for orbital operations as it awaits the arrival of Endeavour about 2 weeks from now. Within seconds after spacecraft separation, Zarya's command and control system will be activated, stored computer commands will be initiated to deploy some of Zarya's external appendages. The first will be the Core's rendezvous and docking antenna, which will be used to provide automatic range rate information to other Russian modules or Soyuz and Progress spacecraft as they approach the station. Then the Comparis command measurement system antenna will be deployed. Comparis receives ground commands when the Zarya is within view of Russian ground stations and stores computer commands for later execution. Lastly, after Zarya's docking probe is commanded to its extended position, the large solar arrays will be deployed. Those solar arrays have a wingspan of 80 feet, are able to collect enough solar power to generate 3 kilowatts of electricity. Solar array deployment should occur about 13 minutes and 20 seconds after launch, the last major event of today's activities. After one revolution of the Earth, about an hour and a half into its new life on orbit, Zarya will continue its programmed activation sequence as it makes its first pass over Russian ground stations. Systems will be turned on in rapid succession, including the module's power supply system, the onboard complex control system, which is the major commanding computer of Zarya, the thermal control system, the life support system, and the critical motion control system. Now, just 7.5 minutes from the launch of the Proton rocket and Zarya, all systems continue to be go for launch. A final approval for launch will be given at the T-minus 5-minute mark. T-minus 30 seconds and counting on the launch pad at Baikonur. The countdown proceeding on schedule. Officials now confirming that the Proton's booster stage steering jets are in the ready-to-launch position. Also, ground commands have been received from the rocket indicating that all control and auxiliary systems are ready for launch. Coming up at the T-minus 5-minute mark, a launch sequencer will be initiated, providing control of all of the critical Proton functions through liftoff. At the time of launch, by the way, the Russian space station Mir will be traveling over the mid-Pacific, moving in a southwest-northeasterly direction at a latitude of 26 degrees south and a longitude of 150 degrees west. That will put the Mir off the east coast of Australia at launch time, and aboard the Mir in its 72,854th orbit since its launch in February 1986 is Commander Gennady Padalka and flight engineer Sergei Avdeyev. Their activities are being monitored by a separate flight control team here at the Russian Mission Control Center. T-minus 5 minutes, 30 seconds till launch. Launch control now reporting that the range at Baikonur is clear and the Proton rocket is ready to begin its journey. T-minus 4 minutes, 36 seconds to launch. The Proton's telemetry monitoring system is about to be switched to its onboard power supply, and we have confirmation of automatic sequence start. All of the Proton's internal functions now automatically controlled through liftoff. At Baikonur, the Khrushchev launch director is the deputy chief designer, Edvard Radchenko. The ascent flight director here at the Russian Mission Control Center is Ilya Azimov, who has served as the ascent flight director for every Proton launch in history. Yuri Kolchin is the Khrushchev Zarya flight director here at the Mission Control Center, and the ascent shift flight director is Konstantin Chernikov. T-minus 4 minutes and counting. The Proton's telemetry monitoring system has been switched to its onboard power supply. Coming up on the T-minus 3 minute mark, we have confirmation that the Sirius telemetry system recorders have been turned on, monitoring vibrational and acoustical data during the Zarya's climb to orbit. All ground recorders are about to be turned on by the Russian Space Forces ground controllers at Baikonur. Coming up on the T-minus 2 minute mark, all systems are go for launch. Final clear to launch about to be issued. T-minus 2 minutes and counting to the launch of the Proton rocket and the first component of the new International Space Station. T-minus 1 minute, 20 seconds to launch. All systems reported go. Proton will soar into an overcast sky over the Asian desert, heading towards orbit, inclination 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator. Standing by on the 1 minute mark, ground station recorders now have been activated. Less than a minute away from the maiden launch of the International Space Station, all systems remain go. T-minus 30 seconds and counting, no problems reported. T-minus 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, coming up on main engine start. Main engine start, 6 engines up and running. And liftoff. Liftoff of the Proton rocket and the Zarya control module. The International Space Station is underway. The Proton building up thrust, good roll and pitch program according to flight controllers. The first component of the International Space Station heading toward orbit. 30 seconds into the flight. Good first stage performance. Proton delivering 1.9 million pounds of thrust from its 6 engines. And first stage measures 68 feet in length, 24 feet in diameter as it burns for the first 2 minutes and 6 seconds of the flight. Proton now fading from view into the overcast skies. One minute, 10 seconds into the flight, good trajectory reported by flight controllers at Baikonur. Less than a minute away from first stage separation. One minute, 35 seconds into the flight, Russian flight controllers report yaw, pitch, and roll, all normal, within parameters. The Proton rocket on a good trajectory toward orbit. We're standing by for first stage separation. All parameters reported to be in good shape. Good chamber pressures. Confirmation of first stage separation. The 6 liquid fuel engines having completed their job, now dropping away at an altitude of 27.1 statute miles. The Proton traveling 3,700 miles an hour. All systems are go. About 30 seconds from now, the nose fairing encapsulating the Zarya module will be jettisoned at an altitude of about 48.5 statute miles. Three minutes into the flight, standing by for nose fairing jettison. We have confirmation now that the nose fairing encapsulating Zarya has been jettisoned. In doing so, 2 command and control antennas and a telemetry antenna on Zarya were deployed normally. The Proton now traveling at a speed of 4,700 miles an hour. 3.5 minutes into the flight. About 6 minutes of powered flight remaining before the Zarya reaches orbit. The second stage is performing as advertised for the Proton. That second stage is 56 feet in length, 13.5 feet in diameter, 4 engines providing 475,000 pounds of thrust for its 3 minutes and 28 seconds of operation. 4 minutes into the flight, everything normal according to Russian flight controllers. Four minutes, 20 seconds into the flight. Second stage performance is right on the money according to Russian flight controllers. Good roll, pitch, and yaw. Good chamber pressures from the 4 second stage engines.